citypaper.com.
Why, hello? Hello. Welcome to a Tuesday rendition of Lynn Cullen's Sort of Alive. And it's November 4th, and it's a Tuesday, which means my sister Susan, my nursemaid, Florence Nightingale, to me, joins us from St. Louis. Hi, Suze. Suze? Uh-oh. Suze?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Don't be coy. Are you there?
No, I didn't hear you until...
Just then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you hear me now?
I do hear you now.
Okay, I hear you too.
Okay, good.
Okay, so, well, it's election day. It's not going to be
too. It's raining here. How about there?
No, it's a beautiful day.
Oh.
And,
yes.
well, it's going to be a bad night, and nothing makes me more miserable than happy Republicans, so. I know, so whatever. And then, God dang it, Tom Magliozzi died.
I know.
Oh, jeez. I mean, come on. Stop piling on. I'm saying to God.
Well, but it explains why they stopped.
It does. Now we understand why they stopped the show. He had Alzheimer's.
They
never
were very
said
private about that.
Yeah. It freaks me out when somebody who's clearly that brilliant has Alzheimer's. You know, sometimes if somebody didn't have much of a brain to start with, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's horrible no matter what. But, geez, God, oh, Lord. Anyway, he was the one that had the truly infectious laugh.
Right.
And whatever.
No, they're both characters.
Oh, they're wonderful. I think without a doubt, it is the best radio show I've ever, gotten addicted to. And what was so brilliant about it is, like, I care about auto mechanics. No.
I never missed it.
No. I mean, it didn't matter. That was just, oh, God, were they great. Tom and Ray.
Well, and didn't they shake up your image of MIT as well?
What, that it wasn't full of all total nerds?
Right.
Well, if they both graduated from it. But they're oddballs. I mean, serious oddballs.
I think they were just going to their local school.
Well, it said in one of the obits I saw that, they came from a working-class Italian family, and Tom was the oldest, and he was the first to go to college. And he not only went to college, but, he went to MIT, and then he ended up also getting an MBA from Northeastern and a doctorate from BU. So he had lots of diplomas. But mostly what he had was just this adorable sense of humor. Dang it. Anyway, so, I saw that on my Twitter and yesterday afternoon, and it just took the stuffing out of me.
Yeah, it was unexpected. But part of it is that the privacy was so unusual.
Right, and that's, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them, but it blindsided us in that regard. So, Suze, I have a slight Election Day pop quiz. This comes from Gail Collins. I'm not going to bother you with all of it, but just a few little things. I just want you to... I didn't do well on it myself.
Well, and I've sort of checked out since...
yeah, it doesn't matter.
It turns out Eric was the one that made me...
Political.
Nonstop.
Well... Yes, and what's interesting, you're reverting back to your pre-Eric, you don't go to odd European movies. You're not as cultured.
No, I'm turning back into the dimwit I was before.
Oh, no. But you're not as political, huh?
Well, I am. I'm just exhausted by the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, who the?
All right. So let's.
Okay. Here's one. Okay. So a number of congressional candidates are actually former reality show stars. I'm going to give you 4 candidates, 3 of whom are in fact running today for the Congress. Okay. One is not.
Okay, I can think of one already. But
yes, right. Okay, here's one. A. The former bachelorette, now seeking happiness in Oklahoma politics. B, the former South Carolina state treasurer who appeared on Southern Charm. I never heard of that one. In which he got one of his co-stars pregnant during the first season. You can bet he's running as a Republican.
Right. Well, I know he's running.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. C, the 87-year-old former governor of Louisiana who starred in The Governor's Wife with his own spouse, who is 51 years younger and became pregnant during the first season as well.
Maybe. Go ahead. Where's Clay?
And D,
Clay Aiken.
Clay Aiken, the American Idol runner-up in North Carolina. Okay. So which one of those is not...
I know for sure that B and D are there, so I'm going to say A is the one that's wrong.
A, the former bachelorette?
Yeah.
And you would be correct! And by the way, the 87-year-old former governor is the governor of Louisiana, why am I blanking on his name, who did time in prison.
Yeah, I can't.
Sort of an incorrigible character. Damn it. Oh, well, anyway. Okay.
In my own defense, I would like to say that the only one that I haven't watched any of those shows.
Good for you, Suze. I haven't either.
I did watch Clay Aiken on American Idol.
Yeah. Okay, here's just one more. I'm not going to bother you with some of these others. They're just beyond belief. Excuse me. Okay, citizens in some states will be deciding interesting ballot questions. Here is one that Alabama, you got to pick which one of these the voters of Alabama will actually be voting on today. A, whether to ban the sale of alcohol and whether to surround the entire state with an electric fence.
Is that the same one?
Yes.
Okay.
B, whether to ban the use of Sharia law and whether to establish a constitutional right to hunt.
Oh, that's absolutely in there. Yeah.
C, whether to establish a state holiday honoring the birthday of native son Jim Neighbors.
Oh, yeah, it's A.
It's, Susan, let me finish.
Okay.
D, whether to change the official state freshwater fish from the largemouth bass to the smallmouth bass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely what? Which one of those? It's A, whether to ban the sale of alcohol and and whether to surround the entire state with an electric fence.
Yeah, that's the one they aren't voting on.
No. This one only has one correct answer.
Oh, it only has one correct answer.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, the correct answer is the one about a constitutional right to hunt.
And Sharia law.
Yeah.
Those were together.
Yeah.
That would be correct.
You know how I can state this with such great positivity?
Yeah.
Because those are all things that are put out by like one of those policy groups that writes legislation for states. And my state likes to have a lot of those things, too.
Yeah, so you've heard of these things before. Yeah, right. So there it is.
We're big on constitutional rights to do stuff that no one's trying to stop you from doing. We passed a constitutional right to farm. I just want you to know.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. In Missouri, so you have a constitutional right to farm.
Right. And
who said you didn't?
Well, I'll tell you what that's for. That's so that small farmers bite the dust and corporate farmers win. That's so that we can't outlaw puppy mills.
I thought it had to do with puppy mills, because you're the big puppy mill state.
Yeah.
Oh, so essentially it's pro-puppy mill.
Yeah, it's pro-puppy mill legislation.
Wonderful. Jesus.
Yeah, you can't fool me with these. See why I stopped reading it? I now know so much that I can intuit how low we've fallen.
Well, sure. And nothing is too outrageous. And I know that other states have actually done the Sharia law thing.
Oh, yeah. That's, like, old. Just shows you how backwards Arkansas is. They're just getting around to it.
I know. Come on, Arkansas. Catch up there, buds. Okay.
I love being right.
I know you do, Susan. I know you do. And you so often are, but not always.
Not always.
Yeah. Okay. So, here's can I just read a letter to the editor that was in the local paper today, because it's so, I could have written it myself, and I just want to do a shout out to Carmela Pucci of Duquesne, who penned this. I am sick of the fighting between UPMC and Highmark. We are patients who are sick with an illness or disease. Not only do we have to worry about our health, but we also have to worry about medical coverage and costs. This creates anxiety, which creates stress in our immune system and weakening our immune systems and our ability of our bodies to fight illness physically and mentally. I am looking for medical providers who will not stress out patients. If you know of any, please contact me ASAP. Just think about the millions of dollars that UPMC and Highmark have spent advertising their bullying campaigns against each other. Think of all the patients who could have received free care with that money. Think of all the money that could have gone for cancer or other research. Shame on you, UPMC and Highmark. Your fighting disgusts me. Compassionate care? I think not. So, thank you, dear. I could have written that myself, although it would have been a little more biting.
I don't see how people can't, there have been more as insurance groups negotiate with hospital groups for, the best deal they can possibly can and kick patients in and out at will. And, and for some patients, you simply can't do that. What if you are a cancer patient? And the people that know your care are in one hospital, and your insurer and and the big wigs in both those places decide, we're just going to have a standoff for 3 months and see who blinks first.
Susan, that's happening here.
Oh, no, that's happened here. It's happening everywhere.
So, I mean, people...
I watched my next-door neighbor not be able to get his hepatitis C, stuff, and that he was doing well, and I watched him almost die until the plan came back.
An outrage. It's beyond outrage. So UPMC keeps running these ads scaring the shit out of people and telling them, I guess, the truth. They list the hospitals they will not be able to go to if they buy a certain Highmark plan. Right. Sure, go ahead, you buy that plan, but you ain't getting into the Hillman Cancer Center, and you ain't getting into McGee, and here's a whole bunch of other things you ain't going to have. Right. Can you imagine? This is a health care system, but it has its own insurance. They want people to buy UPMC insurance. Meanwhile, Highmark has bought up the only two hospitals that aren't part of UPMC. So you have essentially, these are two insurance.
These are two insurance
companies
fighting with each other, having a pissing contest.
And having nothing whatsoever to do with patient care. Nothing. Has nothing to do with
profits.
Has to do with profits, and let's remember they're nonprofits. So I mean, what's this silly? It's all so silly.
It has to do with profits. It's a business.
This is insane. It is absolutely insane. It's immoral. It's unethical, and in fact should be criminal. But we have no regulatory agencies or political will to take on these behemoths. We just don't.
No, well, we can't. I mean, that's just funny. I mean, we're about to lose the Obamacare.
We are?
Oh, sure.
That's number one if they take the Senate? Mm-hmm. That's what McConnell says. Yeah, he's going to get rid of it. I don't think that could How could you do that?
They'll get rid of it in a very funny way. They'll get rid of it while keeping all the things that people like.
Okay. Can I share one other little nightmare hospital stay that somebody wrote in? I won't.
Sure. I won't. It's not yours.
No, it's not mine. But it sounds strangely similar to the one I had after with my shoulders, after the shoulder surgery. Okay. Here's one. Lynn, a few years ago, my husband cut a finger off. get your attention, and damaged his hand by falling into a snowblower while cleaning the driveway. I took him to Forbes Regional in a snow and ice storm, and they called an ambulance and transported him to Presby, that's UPMC, where he had surgery. The next morning, I was called by the hospital telling me to come and pick him up and that he had to be out by 11 a.m. I live about an hour's drive away. It did at the time. I had to fly down there. When I got to the hospital, I discovered that he was not in Presby, and he had ended up in Montefiore, which is what happened to me, too. The surgery was in Presby, and then you wake up in the horror of Montefiore, right? I literally could not find his room, even though I asked a number of people. Anyway, I finally located him down a hall in a wing and room where he was the only patient. That's what happened to me, too. He had no water and was dying of thirst, and there was nothing to even put water in. He had not been given breakfast or any morning kit to wash up or brush his teeth, and he was still dirty from the night before. He was also loopy from the anesthesia. There was no one to help me take him downstairs, so I found a wheelchair and took him down to the main entrance myself. I told him, "You sit in the wheelchair and I'll come back with the car." Well, when I pulled up in front of the entrance, there he was, literally staggering out the door, banging into the glass, trying to get to the car. I jumped out and ran to him so that he didn't fall. No staff came to our aid, and I could barely hold him up. So much for that wonderful care UPMC falsely advertises. Now, Susan, I would have thought before I had my experiences that this was some kind of
anomaly.
Yeah. It's not.
No.
Why aren't more people? Why? I don't know.
Because people feel powerless.
Well,
People don't want to complain when they're in, because what if it makes it worse?
Well, that's right.
And when they're out, they run for their lives.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I thought of complaining while I was in, and I thought they could kill you. You're that vulnerable, right?
You want to make the incompetent nurse mad?
Yeah. You want to make that nurse who's already not doing her job even madder at you? So I did, complain to the nursing supervisor on my way out. I'm just wondering, why shouldn't there be? Will someone please, some of you out there who have time on your hands, can you set up something on the internet where we can share these horror stories from Pittsburgh hospitals?
Well, there are doctor reviews and there are hospital reviews.
Well, I want one specifically dealing with the hospitals in this city. And I want it to get so popular that the hospitals have to somehow respond to it. Why won't somebody do that?
Well, they should. But part of the problem is that when you're in a research and or teaching hospital, it seems that the idea, the emphasis on patient care or where it's prioritized is well below what it is in other hospitals where they might have fine doctors, but the doctors aren't as interested in what they consider their main mission, which is either A, research, or B, teaching, or something like that.
Which is certainly the case at UPMC, which is what...
And so out of that falls age-old rules, like you never check into a hospital on this day because that's when that's when they rotate the staff, and you get an intern who doesn't know what they're doing.
My big mistake this time was going into an ER on a Friday night and having to spend a weekend. And
you never get sick on a weekend.
Never. But I did.
Nothing happens again until Monday. The fact,
right.
I mean, I think it's amazing that they managed to operate on you within 2 days instead of making you wait until Monday. I think they judged that you might not make it.
Right. No, they got, from the time the doctor said we need you to in surgery to the time I was in surgery was less than an hour. It wasn't like, he found a room and in I went. It was that fast. They brought all this portable, a portable X-ray and X-rayed me in my hospital bed. They did all that, which normally you would do the day before and stuff like that. So, yeah, thank God. But I don't know. It's hard for me to let go of this new found knowledge. It really is. It really is, because it's so frightening.
Well, the whole thing's frightening. It's like that stupid check that I got from my insurance company.
Yes,
thousands of dollars.
What was that?
Oh, haven't told this story. A couple of weeks ago, I opened up my mail, and out falls a letter from Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, Missouri, that has in red letters, premium rebate enclosed. And I think, yeah, right. I open it up mostly out of curiosity to see what the come-on is.
You mean you might have thrown it out? You thought it was...
I might have thrown it out, because what do we know? I mean, what is like the number one rule? There ain't no such thing as a premium rebate from an insurance company.
And I never heard of one. Right.
So I open the thing, and what falls out but a check for literally thousands of dollars.
Ooh.
Under 10, but just barely.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so now I'm really interested. And
what do you mean interested? You just run to the bank as fast as you can.
Believe me, that check was in the bank within an hour. But first I read the news that said, the letter, accompanying letter that says, good news. And I'm going, yeah, right. What happened? And, nothing is, they don't really explain anything. There's nothing that you can see. But somewhere down at the bottom, I do read something about the Missouri Division of Insurance. Now I'm really intrigued, because it seems really impossible to me that there's any division of the Missouri government that would ever do anything for a consumer ever, or if it did, that it would still be staffed such that it could, right?
Right, exactly.
So this is all extremely improbable.
Wow.
But I do get on the internet, and I, Google the Missouri Division of Insurance and look up their news releases, and sure enough, at the end of August, a historic and mammoth agreement between the Missouri Division of Insurance and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield was reached, wherein Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield agreed to give millions of dollars back to individual policyholders like me, whom they had just ripped off for, this was only the years 2007 through 2010. And basically just charged us more for the same policies that everybody else could get for less.
Well, someone went to bat.
Somebody went to bat.
Somebody did.
But here's the thing. So this is a very large check that covers the years 2007 through 2010. But in that period, my premiums never went down. They only went up.
Yeah.
And my policy never changed.
Right.
So how do I know that I'm not still being defrauded?
Right. You don't.
I don't. And when I call my broker, my insurance broker, they purposefully don't understand the question. The first thing I hear from some woman when I state my question, she goes, well, I don't know anything about this. So, yeah, I don't deal in Obamacare. And I said, first of all, you're an insurance agent, and it's the Affordable Care Act.
Oh, Jesus.
And I said, and I understand why you wouldn't know anything about it. Let me talk to somebody that does. This has nothing to do with it. This has to do with whether you're doing your job as my broker.
Well, apparently not.
And so that question, I never got the question answered from the broker, which I thought was very clear. Am I still being defrauded?
Well,
I think I'll call them and find out.
Yeah, well, my hunch is you probably are.
Yes.
And my hunch is most of us probably are. And it's also complicated and convoluted and impenetrable. That one of the things you can assume in the way our healthcare system works is you are being screwed.
You're being screwed.
Yeah, you are paying more way more than you should, and you are getting much less than you should for the money that you're paying. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, lest we think it's only health care and that kind of insurance. I mean, I could regale you with my hours spent on the phone with AT&T, which has recently lost one lawsuit because of its unreadable and packed bills, but is now being sued again for much the same reason. And I've had 3 bills that have been so out of whack.
Well, see, I think don't they rely on the fact, Susan, that most people like me
don't look. But if you got a phone bill, one little old lady for $501.
Yeah, that would get my attention. That would.
And when I get another bill that is also much larger after making moves that would decrease all the costs, the ensuing bills were all larger, and it has taken me months. And here is AT&T's solution. Their solution is that I should float them a loan in the amount of the overcharges, and in 2 or 3 months they'll give it back.
Oh, well, that sounds.
And when I said no, and this is what took hours, I don't think AT&T needs me to lend them any money, interest-free. I think AT&T needs to tell me exactly how much I owe them, and then I will pay it. So I eventually got someone to guesstimate what one bill and then another bill were. And now I am being dunned, and they told me the correct amount to pay, and now I am being dunned for underpaying a bill that I didn't owe, and the last bill duns me at the top for the overcredit.
My head is spinning.
Honestly, duns me for the bill on the overcredit, and then which is the underpayment, which is $69,
You're
and
screwed.
Then charges me $61.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, but it's on my credit.
Yeah. I just have a feeling that most people just roll over and get fucked. That's it.
Well, I have taken upon myself
not to get fucked. Well, that's good, and you got the
not
time.
only that, but to make it damned uncomfortable.
Well,
the poor schmo that has to take my.
Well, see, that's the thing. You're just dealing with some poor schmo.
Oh, and at AT&T, only no schmo knows what the other schmo is doing. They are so compartmentalized that no one can actually help you.
AT&T. Independent schmoes galore. Okay, let's move on. All right, yeah. Let's move on. Everybody's got their own problems, Susan.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, you should your bills, because apparently I'm being ripped off thousands of dollars. I don't know how you guys are doing.
Probably thousands. Who cares? What difference does it make? They fuck you and then you die. Hey, that's Celine's laugh. So, Susan, perhaps you saw this in the New York Times, I think, on Sunday. I think we've talked about this too, Suze, before. The outrageous proliferation of medicalizing of childhood, of normal children, and this huge increase in kids being treated for ADHD.
Well, when you think about it, we're all on the spectrum.
Well, of course we're all on the spectrum.
That's what makes it a spectrum.
So they're saying that, if you look at what's going on with a lot of these kids, there's nothing wrong with them, really. They just have a brain that is hardwired for novelty seeking and really have no ability to deal with the boring way that they're structured in their lives as children. It drives them nuts. So to them, to a kid like that with the brain going in a certain way, the routine of school, for instance, is literally maddening. And to compensate, they get impatient. Obviously, they get restless with the regimentation and the structure that they're put in. And we do not allow for people who are not sort of willing to be automatons. So as soon as somebody starts, and you know what we're doing, I'm thinking that these kids probably are the kind of kids who, if they were allowed to explore and do what their brains want them to do, would be great artists and scientists and thinkers, and that if the pharmaceutical companies had their way 300, 400 years ago, Beethoven would not have written what he wrote. Mozart would not have written what he wrote. So the greatest works of art in the world would never have been created.
And what's so wrong with being odd anyway?
Yes! So they say here, from the standpoint of teachers who want order, and parents who want order, and the world at large that wants everybody in order, we then look at these kids and say, they're sick and they need to be medicated. They can't focus and they don't have attention spans and they're too impulsive. But
well, that's two different issues. That's ADHD, which it drives me nuts, and then there's autism, which is a total.
No, I'm talking about ADHD. But the real problem is that those kids' brains are not built to live in a world that is structured in a way that they find so boring and uninteresting it drives them nuts. And I think they're right.
Right, but it's also that we've simply taken away a lot of the stuff that we used to allow the younger grades to do. There was a lot more movement, a lot more activity. That
they created themselves. They went out, you'd throw them outside, and they'd make things up, and they'd make their games, everything now.
Now you can't even, now there's...
You can't even go play
outside for free play.
Yeah, you can't even find a kid to play with because now we have to set up a play date because little Megan has her this lesson and that lesson and that. Don't get me going. Don't get me going. Don't get me going.
Well, I've been screaming about this
hate
for
these
years
parents. I hate them.
I was the only mother that only let my child do one thing.
I was the only mother who had a kid who didn't do anything.
No.
I tried piano lessons. That didn't work. I tried a few things. He just was totally not interested. And I could not imagine the schlepping around from this to that. I used to let him out the door. He went over to friends' houses by himself. He was taking the bus by himself when he was like 11 or 12. What is wrong with people? I don't know.
I don't either.
Okay, so listen to how much of an increase in ADHD diagnoses there has been. 40.
It's all it's done is create a ready source for speed.
That's right. So, Susan, between 2003 and 2011, they have the numbers for that. You can bet this is a lot bigger. The increase in the prevalence of children diagnosed with ADHD. So in 2003 to 2011, in those 8 years, 41% increase.
That's right. And so you've got all these parents that are giving their kids speed every morning. And you've got these kids that are losing weight and disappearing, and and a lot of them, might be not even ADHD. They might be something like, anxious.
Yeah.
And giving them speed would be sort of the exact wrong thing to do. But it is so knee-jerk. And then you get on college campuses, and of course everybody knows the answers to the ADHD quiz. I mean, so all you have to do is go into the doctor and say, I need something, You mean so a lot of adults, a lot of adults are self-prescribing. They're going to get their speed so they can get through finals.
Right.
And then, a lot of them just find out that they like it.
Right. And you know who else likes it? The pharmaceutical companies.
The pharmaceutical companies, which are selling this as fast as they can.
Okay, this article in the Times says, most alarmingly, however, more than 10,000 children between the ages of 2 and 3
oh my God,
were found to be taking these drugs.
See, that's child abuse. If you were out in rural Missouri making meth, and by the way, slipping your 2-year-old a little, you'd be jailed.
Yeah, well,
There's absolutely no difference.
Yeah, and it says that is so out of whack with established pediatric guidelines. But we have decided that childhood
is a disease. And that if a child cries or doesn't emerge from the womb trained, or doesn't, conform as fast as your puppy does, then they need to be drugged. And I just like to point out, just as clear as I can be, that these drugs can kill people. They can make them psychotic. They can take them out of the world. They can, and then these same docs that are giving them speed are frequently treating them with 3 or 4 other drugs to make the effects of the speed less onerous. And some of these drugs can damage you permanently forever. So this isn't just a little thing. This isn't a little harmless thing. This is really a national catastrophe, and people should not be drugging their kids.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And by the way, the latest research shows that most kids, really 99% of them, don't need it, and just a little bit of other kinds of less invasive therapy does wonders.
Well,
but that takes time. That actually takes time.
Popping a pill is bang. That's easy. And the guys who wrote this article, who, by the way, is a professor of psychiatry and psychopharmacology, so he knows all about the use of drugs to deal with behavior. And he says that his sense is, too, that another factor that might be driving this epidemic of ADHD is the extraordinary contrast between the regimented school environment and the highly stimulating digital environment that the kids inhabit the minute they're out of the classroom. And I think there might be something to that, too.
Yeah.
So he says, for children like this, it would be better to just have smaller classes that emphasize hands-on learning, self-paced computer assignments. He said many kids with ADHD might still need some psychostimulants. But he says we've got to stop rushing to medicalize children's energy, children's curiosity, and their novelty seeking. Because these things are not disabilities. They're assets.
Children learning. It's what learning looks like.
Right.
I know it's one of those subjects that I know not a little of, and it's my first place to start is always someplace else. That pill is the absolute last place you go.
Chuck writes a few comments. When I voted today, I was shocked to see that Tim Murphy, he's our Congress, he's one of the Congress people from around here, Suze. I'm sorry, that's my phone. Someone who should know better. He was shocked to see that Congressman Tim Murphy was on the ballot. Why would you be shocked? He was just the guy who oversaw the big Ebola congressional hearing. Chuck writes he ran unopposed which is the reason I wasn't aware he was even on the ballot. But he has to run. I mean, this is America now. A lot of
He still has to be elected, right?
He still has to be was saying yesterday, it's like the Soviet Union used to be. You go to the polls and you put your X next to one name, which is the only guy that's available to you, that there is no choice. Amazingly, that district has a lot of Democrats in it, but he's managed to finagle his way in through incumbency. He ran unopposed, which is the reason I wasn't aware. Is this what redistricting has done to us? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Have we created districts where candidates don't have to worry about any opposition? Yes.
Yes.
This is what it is.
That's why.
There are, in the whole nation, a minimal number of congressional districts that are considered in play, where people really will have a choice and could go either way. The vast majority, people, you understand why people don't bother going to the polls. They live in one of those districts where you know who's going to win. It's rigged.
Yeah, you still got to go vote.
Yes, you do. And then Chuck, well, I appreciate your energy, Chuck. For those who indeed have a choice, let us all not forget how this House of Representatives continually threatened this country with a shutdown and then actually shut it down. And regarding hospital reviews online, what we need is an Angie's List website for health care. I'll get right on it. I hope you do. I hope you do. Oh, there's an interesting piece in the New York Times today about the newest partisan divide in the country, the very divided country to start with, which is, here, I'll give you some numbers. The number of boys playing high school football has fallen 15% in Wisconsin, 15% in Minnesota, 14% in Colorado, 8% in Massachusetts, and also is down in Maryland, New York, and California. Now, the interesting thing about that is that all of those states voted Democratic in the last two presidential elections, and each of those states is among the most educated states in the country, measured by how many people actually have a college degree. So, what we're seeing is in Democratic states and in educated states, usually they go together, by the way, you're seeing a pretty pronounced decline in boys playing football. And it's because their parents don't want them to, because they're aware of the dangers.
Well, it might be that the kids don't want to. I mean, I can remember when, my son was little, and I asked him if he wanted to, play football, and he just looked at me and said quite seriously, nah, a kid could get hurt that way. It seemed pretty obvious to him.
Well, that he ain't he really ain't the type, nor is mine.
No, but I mean, it's not like he was adverse to danger.
You see, but Suze, the thing is, and they go on to say, I mean, football in this country is akin to a secular religion.
Right, I know.
And it's a tribal kind of ritual in a way that a lot of us organize our lives, our social lives. We wear special garments. We identify in certain ways. There are weekly rituals. There are even national rituals, so that now Thanksgiving, rather than being about Thanksgiving, is really a football national holiday. And the Super Bowl is really a national holiday of this secular religion of football. And what they're saying is, if you see the numbers of the kids going down doing football, and you see it most in blue states, not as much in red, you can't believe that football's really going to suffer. But they point out that you know what? As much as it is hard to believe, culture can change. And boxing, when our grandparents were around, was the sport. It's pretty much gone now. I mean, as a major sport. And part of that is what happened to Muhammad Ali. We see the impact of the sport. A recent poll by Rand Corporation showed that nationwide, only 55% of Americans said they would be comfortable with their sons playing football. And that number will continue to decline. There's little doubt about that. So they say this, what happens next? The best guess is probably that the future of football will be decided by medical research. And it's now clear that many NFL players are at significant risk of brain injury. And the NFL has finally acknowledged it and agreed to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to injured ex-players. And here is...
continuing, by the way, to create more injured players.
Exactly, while continuing to create more injured players, right. And so... a guy named Daniel Okrent, who has written about baseball and about prohibition, he says this: when universities and school boards have to start paying out substantial settlements like the NFL is now doing, the debate will change. Like that. So you'll begin to see colleges drop football. Not because it isn't a big money maker for them, but at some point it might now become a there's liability.
Right, and the colleges are being attacked from all sorts of different points of view. So like at Northwestern, the case about unionization and being paid for certain things. And, which I guess I'm in the minority, but I absolutely think that makes total sense.
They should be paid, right?
They absolutely. They are professionals in every sense of the word, except for some strange reason. Only their bosses are allowed to make the money. I mean, it just makes absolutely no sense. And a lot of those guys, their careers are over after college. That's it.
Well, most of them. The vast majority.
And we know that they aren't getting an education in 90% of the cases.
Right. Sickening. Okay, so Ray writes, Lynn and Susan, can't help but notice all these problems, from political corruption to medical horrors, from pharmaceutical manipulation to public health. All these things arise from one source. We have allowed the marketplace to turn us from citizens into consumers. That's been my mantra, Ray, for 30 years. Subtle movements and pressures over time have succeeded in making greed a virtue and compassion a weakness. We need to save ourselves by changing our minds first. And good luck with that.
No, I
absolutely
agree.
Absolutely agree. But speaking of that, there's a totally scary thing that what's his name? Well, it usually drives me crazy. David Brooks wrote.
Yeah.
Hey.
David Brooks?
Huh? Well, because it's about changing our minds, and will we have our own minds to change? It's about artificial intelligence and where it's taking us and where it's heading. And he talks about the fact that the internet, in 2001, long time ago, the top 10 websites on the internet accounted for 31% of all the traffic. So just 10 sites had a third of all the traffic 14 years ago. 2010, just 4 years ago, 10 websites account for 75% of all the traffic on the internet. So what we're ending up with, and you can bet it's higher than that now. You can bet it's maybe 85%. So he says companies like Google have just swallow up the smaller ones. The internet has created a long tail, but almost all the revenue and power is among the small elite at the head. Now, this is a kind of picture that we're getting used to, aren't we? That everything is concentrated at the top, and everybody else is just sort of dragged along. Yeah. And he says that the advances that are now starting to happen in artificial intelligence with things that used to be electrified are all going to be instead computerized. So a lot of things that we used to do will be taken away from us and done by machines. And this will all it's going to accelerate this centralization of power in the internet. So he says, as a result, our artificial intelligence future is likely to be ruled by an oligarchy of 2 or 3 super large, general purpose commercial entities. And to put it more menacingly, he says, engineers at a few gigantic companies will have vast, though hidden power to shape how data are collected and framed, to harvest huge amounts of information, to build the frameworks through which the rest of us will make our decisions and steer our own choices. If you think this power will be used for entirely benign ends, then you have not read enough history, he says.
Or enough so-called fiction.
Well, I got to tell you, how is that not? I mean, I've been maintaining this forever, but you know, I see it. People coming around to my way of thinking here. He says artificial intelligence will redefine what it actually means to be human, because our identity as humans has always been shaped by the fact that we could do things that machines and other animals could not. And for the last few centuries, reason, our heads, was seen as the ultimate human faculty. But see, now these machines are better at many of the tasks we associate with our heads, with thinking. Because we now know that these machines beat us at Jeopardy, they beat us at chess, they beat us doing math, they beat us over and over again. So what's special about us? And he says it will be our emotional selves, our social skills, our moral intuitions. But see, I think, as Ray's email says, our moral intuitions have already been crippled by these huge forces that control our behavior, whether we're aware of it or not, changing us from interested citizens to robotic consumers. I'm sorry this is so depressing, but I'm sorry, it's reality, okay? What do you think?
It's pretty depressing.
It's depressing.
I mean, it's sort of a lay down and die viewpoint of it, but you know, hopefully we'll pull ourselves back from the brink.
How?
I don't know, because I can't imagine why we're getting more Republicans instead of fewer. So don't ask me.
Well, you have to look. I mean, we have these two Americas, and you have an entire America who accepts as fact things which aren't, you know?
Right.
So they've already been manipulated. See how easy it is. And like sheep. Like sheep. Melanie writes, I'm sitting at my desk watching from afar the filming of the Will Smith movie about Bennett Omalu. They're shooting up at St. Benedict the Moor Church. Apparently, he was a member of St. Benedict the Moor, and they've been there the past 2 days. That film did not have a title and now has a title. It's called Concussion, and it is a film that the NFL will not want anyone to see. We got a caller. Hello.
See if we can do this here.
Susan, hang on. We're going to try to do this.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry to call so late in the show.
That's okay.
Okay, kids. With the consumers,
Yeah.
the kids. You know how, like, kids aren't buying houses, kids aren't buying cars. Well, really, they can't afford it.
That's true.
But they're losing that drive to, you know.
The consumerist drive is not as strong. That's true.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's true.
And their communication, their social, although it's online and by cell phone,
Right.
they communicate with each other. That's where the hope is with those kids. And it's been basically forced on them not to be consumers.
But if you think about the concentration on the internet of where the information they get comes from, how that won't create a kind of monolithic. I don't know. I just worry that it's easier to herd people if they're all going to the same source.
Yeah, and they, like you said, they get bored with it. They can see it because they've grown up with the internet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, they grow up with the ones I deal with anyway can see BS when they can spot BS when they see it. You know?
Right.
So that's where the hope is. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, you.
Because I think just the way you think, but then I always see these kids.
Well,
and my 2-year-old nephew, flying through an iPad like it's nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I look at my own son. He has so little interest in commercial aspects of things. He'll only buy used clothes. He'll only buy.
Sure, that's not my kid.
Yeah, that's my kid. That's my kid. And he goes to Goodwill.
Yeah, that's what my house, my closet is all from secondhand.
Yeah, right. So's his. Except the things I buy him. But it's true. And I don't know. He's not into it at all.
And here's what I was thinking about this morning. I said, if everybody turns into me and Sam, what happens? What happens to the economy?
Well, that's not good, right? Is it?
That's not good. Everybody can't be, a prudent shopper or whatever. Everybody can't do it. Somebody has to be a sucker so they can donate,
right.
Donate last year's clothes so I can buy them for $3.
And so people can have jobs. I know there has to be. Yeah. Well, that's what the friggin' 1% are supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. But they don't enough. They can't buy enough yachts to keep the economy afloat.
Certainly. And there's that one guy, I don't know if you read that article. I think that, the pitchforks and shovels are coming or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you seen that article?
Yeah, I think I did. It was a while back.
He's a really rich guy, and he has a TED talk about the same subject.
Yes.
Talking about that.
He's trying to warn his fellow gazillionaires that they're going to come for us.
Yeah, and all they got to do is start paying, McDonald's workers $25 an hour.
Right.
Yeah, just those kind of things. Just pay them more money. The things that machines can't do, although they can make burgers and send them to you, but at some point there's going to be a point where they're just going to have to pay, people sweeping the streets $50 an hour. They make $100,000 a year because they have to, or the economy goes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. We got a lot of interesting times ahead of us, and
I'm not going to make it, but
well, I don't know.
Oh, that's true. I could be a cyborg.
That's right.
Those 1%ers could build me a new arm and a new heart or whatever.
Yeah, right. Jesus. Thank you, Clarence.
Okay, have a good day.
All right. All right, Susan. I'm going to leave the last word to Roger, who says, it's sunny, crystal clear sky. We all get to exercise our right to vote today. And I got a Groupon offer to learn how to shoot a handgun at 50% off. Is your and Susan's glass half full, too? Mine is.
Mine is. I'm excited. I always like to vote. I'm going to go vote.
But we're not delusional.
No.
No. And then he says, one sees in the world what they carry in their heart. No, I am blessed. But I look at the world, and I think the bad guys are increasingly in control, truly. And then Roger says, yeah, I know I'm being annoying. No.
A little cockeyed optimism is always refreshing.
It's very refreshing, and we do need to remember that. But I also I can't stand delusion. Anyway, yeah, it's a beautiful day. Enjoy it. And Susan, thanks for
You're
everything.
welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.